Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nugget's News. Well, before we get into the crypto and macro news this week, just a reminder that in the coming hours we will be uploading our first documentary, Australia's Coming Financial Crisis. Keep an eye out for that. A lot of blood, sweat and tears have gone into this one, so I do hope you guys enjoy our look into the banks and the Australian housing market. Into the crypto news though. So this week's been another relatively flat week. We're going to take a look at the charts and go over all the headlines. Maker again being one of the best performers, a coin that we continue to cover a lot. Don't forget, we've got over 6,000 people that get our free newsletter every week, guys. So as I said last week, there's a lot of new people getting into the space, which is very interesting, and that is all extra free content to keep you up to date. On this day in crypto history, so it was this time last year when the Ethereum market cap approached that of Bitcoin and people started talking about the flippening. Now that definitely didn't play out. Bitcoin has regained a lot of dominance since then. It's going to be interesting to watch that unfold in the future. 2 years ago since JP Morgan joined the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, and we know this week they launched their own coin. I'm going to touch on that. IBM started betting big 3 years ago now, and of course they've been a big player in the blockchain space now with everything they do. Hong Kong-based MyCoin ran off with 387 million, which was a lot back in 2015. And 2014, Bitstamp was hit by some nasty DDoS attacks. That was in the middle of crypto winter when things were just going from bad to worse. And 2013, Reddit began accepting Bitcoin. So this week we saw a couple of countries come out and introduce blockchain frameworks and laws, and that's great to see. Wyoming also passed some new regulations recognizing digital assets as property, so people are slowly getting their heads around it and regulators are catching up. Now in Australia, I posted on my Facebook that a lot of people don't see what's happening behind the scenes, and it's been a big week for myself and other professionals in the industry. We've all been collaborating our response to the Australian Treasury Department's request for feedback on how to regulate crypto, how to tax it, individuals, startups. They don't want to stifle that innovation and growth, but hopefully when we present to Treasury in the coming weeks, I'll fill you guys in, but Blockchain Australia and ADCA are in there batting for the industry within Australia. However, on the dark side of the web, pardon the pun, we have stuff like this. So this was the biggest dark web penetration in Australian history. Cryptocurrencies involved, it's always going to have these stories pop up. I don't think crypto per se is the problem. It's the same, the war on drugs and everything else that comes from that, the creation of black markets. But this isn't the sort of thing that we'd like to see. It doesn't give crypto a good name. Now, this week we spoke to DataDash, who's the largest crypto YouTuber, a friend of the channel. He is US-based, and we covered a range of topics. A lot of people don't realize that we upload every video as a podcast, especially the long format. A lot of you guys didn't realize we had a podcast, and you do enjoy that format. So as always, guys, Nuggets Crypto Podcast, if you prefer listening to them that way. But one of the things we spoke about was central banks and US debt, which has surpassed $22 trillion. Now, I think this is the biggest theme of Bitcoin and gold, what central banks are doing and admitting. So this is something I've been speaking about for a couple of years now, that we can't raise interest rates. This money printing and dropping of interest rates is now going to continue forever. And they can't get out of this corner. They promised us they would normalize everything. And this week we start to see Fed officials changing their tone. And I think this is why stock markets have had a record rebound, because one thing that we were saying was they're going to call the Fed's bluff. Stock markets are going to sell off hard and crash and say, look, we're going to throw a tantrum. If you want to raise interest rates, there's too much debt. And as soon as that happened, the Fed said, whoa, we don't want to crash the stock market. Maybe we're going to stop our unwind, but not even that. Maybe we're going to print more money and buy more bonds, and this will become the new normal. So what was previously emergency monetary policy is going to become the new normal, and I think it's coming to Australia, but we also touch on that in our documentary. This is going to be a huge driver of gold and silver. Ainsley Bullion, our friends, launched their gold and silver Ethereum tokens, so you can technically now store gold and silver on your hardware wallet, but I'm going to do a full mini documentary this week about the best way to get exposure to gold and silver, whether it's through metals, miners or ETFs, and really explain that for you, so keep an eye out for that one this week as well. We all know that it's a bit of a farce what gets reported now, and things like this when Germany reports 0.0% growth. Now, if that's negative, technically they go into recession, and all of a sudden there's all these bad headlines. Germany's in recession. It's meant to be the powerhouse of Europe. And so, you've got to wonder what the true data is suggesting here when stuff like this comes out. But it doesn't really matter to me. The fact is that everyone is going back into a downturn, a period of weakness, when they're meant to be launching out this other side, and central banks are going to reverse what they've been doing because the economy is so strong. And obviously the data very much suggests otherwise. Now, this was a good article about Brazil and the debt that they went into for the Olympics. And everyone wants the Olympics. It cost them $32 million back in 2016. And that debt is now tripled to $113 million. They're facing 600 lawsuits for failure to pay suppliers and workers. So another example of people thinking it's a great thing to go into debt, build these buildings, create this infrastructure. We see ghost cities in China. Guys, it is simply not as simple as printing money, creating infrastructure. The economy doesn't work that way. It's far more complex, and we have borrowed so much from the future, and people are starting to find out the hard way the piper has to be paid. Into some blockchain-related news now, but Hyundai partnered with IBM to accelerate their blockchain development. So blockchain traceability, this is one of the big use cases that we're starting to see bigger and bigger companies turn to. Even Apple this week have hinted at some sort of supply chain blockchain that they'll be working on with some of their SEC filings. So we don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes, but definitely keep an eye on it. Anyone that thinks the blockchain in this space is dead, guys, every week it seems like Facebook, Twitter, or Apple, someone is out there saying, hey, we want to use this technology. There's something here, and open source nature of these projects, I believe, is going to be what's going to be valuable to all these companies in the long run, and not these small little private blockchains in-house. Now, Venezuela have announced a parasitic crypto tax is the headline here, basically saying, look, if you want to use cryptocurrency, we're going to tax the hell out of you. Use the petro, use our own cryptocurrency. And this is the opposite of a free market. Whenever you try to force someone's hand, it genuinely has the opposite effect. So pretty disappointing to see this. I don't think Venezuelans are going to be taking too much notice. I don't think there's many citizens that are going to be volunteering to pay this tax that are using crypto, and Bitcoin is literally saving their well-being. In a similar vein of thought, we've seen JP Morgan say, Bitcoin's crap, it's a fraud, whatever, and hey, we're launching our own coin. And headline here says obliterate Ripple, and there was a good response from Brad Garlinghouse saying that JP Morgan is missing the point. And if this doesn't demonstrate for you that everyone has their own opinion and there is a scale. So JP Morgan says that Bitcoin's crap, Ripple says that JP Morgan coin is too centralized, and Bitcoin advocates will say that Ripple's too centralized. So it's all a scale, guys. Everyone has their own opinions. The religious side of crypto, with everyone hating on each other, just doesn't help anyone. But just be mindful, have a wide range of opinions, and then form your own. Speaking of institutional capital flows, we saw Grayscale report a 66% increase of investment in Q4 2018. So the smart money gets in at the bottom. Okay, they buy low, sell high, those very basics that new investors make these mistakes continually. So it's good to know that there's a lot of money pouring into Grayscale investments. And this week we saw Pomp, a friend of the channel, announce that they had $40 million from US pension funds. Now, a lot of this was into blockchain-based companies, so shares and equity, but there was a percentage going into Bitcoin, and it is a small amount, relatively speaking, but we have to start somewhere, guys. And their message has been get off zero. For pension funds, investment funds around the world, the right number, the right amount of exposure to Bitcoin and crypto, it's somewhere above zero. So this is a great step in the right direction. Well done to Pomp and Morgan Creek. Now, Ben, who's the head of social media and editing at Nuggets News, tweeted this out, and I had no idea that Fortnite were having these live concerts. It's a glimpse into the future, as they say. 10 million people attending this virtual concert. Can you imagine if we had 10 million people attending a virtual AFL or whatever it is in your local country? But these online numbers continue to grow, surprise people. I certainly think it is a glimpse into the future. Virtual reality, augmented reality, a bit of a hybrid of both is what people are starting to talk about now. I think it is going to change the way we live big time in the future. But on to the crypto news. So this is Synthetics, and they have rebranded from Haven. Now, there's been a bit of confusion because there was another project, Haven, that there's been a lot of worry about. So two separate projects. The Australian one is now called Synthetics. This is their 2019 roadmap, and there's some pretty cool stuff on here. So they've produced a Aussie dollar stable coin, but the future upgrades that they're looking to do here, long and short positions, leverage trading, equities and indices, options and futures, this is all really exciting for me to see. The derivatives world is something I'm very passionate about, and I'll continue to teach members in particular about how we can trade options in crypto and make money even in sideways markets. I can't wait for them to launch this. Now, this week, Coinbase finally allocated their users their Bitcoin Cash Satoshi Vision. Now, they're not allowing you to buy this, but they are allowing you to trade this. So it's going to be interesting to see if people sell this off. A lot of that demand, a lot of the circulating supply is locked up because of people that haven't allocated it yet. So this is a large amount that's going to come into circulation that could affect the price. On Coinbase this week, I did a video about Coinbase Earn. So this week, guys, I've earned about $40 or $50 of free crypto just by doing the Coinbase Earn, the little tutorials, the Stellar giveaway. So if you're comfortable just signing up with an email and a password, there's a lot of free crypto to be made. I'll continue to share ways with you guys, but if crypto goes back to its all-time highs, that $40 or $50 might end up being $500 or $1,000. I think it's worth doing it. It's educational in the meantime. Now, a new segment that I will be doing regularly for members in our crypto group is this weekly watch. So coins that I'm watching that I think are going to have significant price action or significant milestones in the next week or so. So MakerDAO is one I've been talking about a lot, multi-collateral DAI, and I did a video that I'm going to release this week for members about the other coins that is going to drag with it in the next run. Cardano has been doing some great things. I'm looking forward to that Shelly update and that Light Wallet they launched recently. Neo in the coming days, look, depends what sort of news comes out of that, if it's going to be good or bad for Neo. I think we could see a big move after that. And well done to new Nuggets News team member Matt Williamson, who shared a few of his ideas, and the next day they went up 40%, 65% even. So it's great to know that fundamentals and good news can still move projects in the right direction if you know where to look. There's some very smart people in our group sharing ideas, and that's what I absolutely love about it. Make sure you give Matt a follow on Twitter as well. Now, Status this week launched their tap and pay crypto hardware wallet. So 10x are finally issuing their cards in Australia. My crypto wallet have got one as well now. There's so much competition coming out, guys. I think this is a glimpse into the next wave of people actually using crypto, and then people see you using it in a cafe, gets the conversation going. I think it's great that we have a way to use our crypto. I think people want to spend small amounts, and I think people want a stable coin on their wallet, so they're not worried about that volatility up and down, just that small amount they want to spend on their coffee or whatnot. Now, Binance are launching their DEX very soon, and I have got a preview to do a tutorial for this. So hopefully I'll get that out as well pretty soon this week. But it's pretty disappointing this week that they've delisted some coins. So I'm not sure if they're reshuffling what's going to be on their exchange versus their DEX, but I know this was crippling for some communities. So Cloak and Josh is a friend of the channel. You know, to see your market cap lose 40 or 50% in a day just because Binance tweets it's delisting it, that's really brutal for some of these communities that are really tight-knit with a good mission statement. They had no, ICO, no pre-mine. They're really dependent on their community. Now, Mod is another one that I really like and I personally own, the pharmaceutical logistics. Again, these guys aren't told that they're going to be delisted, and I'm trying to get them on the channel to discuss all this. Salt is one that's kind of been up and down a lot. Sub is one that people either love or hate. And Wings is probably the smallest of these projects being delisted. Now, CZ came out swinging, saying, maybe stop trading the funds that you raised that were intended to develop your product. And this was in response to the Substratum guys. So interesting if there's something more comes out here that they've been speculating, or as I say here, this never happened. But yeah, you should not be trading funds of your users that you've raised to supposedly develop the project. Now, Ethereum's difficulty is increasing. This built-in difficulty bomb, it's part of the algorithm, but because we keep having to push back certain hard forks, it actually comes into effect slightly. So this is increasing block times. This might push back the Constantinople hard fork by a day or two, but not because they're delaying it. It's because it is going to happen at a set block number. And now that the difficulty is increasing, the time between each block is slightly increasing. So there's going to be a slight delay to when the hard fork will actually come into effect. Nothing to worry about. Keep an eye out for that next week. The Ethereum Enterprise Alliance are forming a token task force. Now, a lot of people are really excited about the possibility of what security tokens can bring. I've spoken about Ethereum playing a big role in the security token revolution because of all these standards that they have set out. And regulators are going to love the standards. Exchanges are going to love the standards. Raising the money, who can participate, who you can swap it with. All this stuff can be programmed into the protocol, and I think Ethereum is going to play a big part in this. Now, in scaling Ethereum this week, we spoke to Lefteris, who's one of the lead developers of the RAID network, Ethereum's version of the Lightning Network. A good interview. Again, these things take time. One of the things he did say that he was really surprised about was how quickly Lightning Network took off on Bitcoin. So a year ago, it was literally launched with a few nodes, and now we have thousands of users, Lightning Torch being passed around Twitter. So these things can happen faster than anticipated once the tech is rolled out. Similarly, OmiseGo finally released their alpha. So Plasma is another one of the scaling solutions, blockchains within blockchains. Read this update, but I'll just show you this game. So this is Plasma Dog. I'll unmute for you guys for 1 second here, and I'll show this because it's really cool. If you're a fan of Super Mario World, that sort of thing, guys, check this out. That's Plasma Dog. I'll do that again for you. Pretty retro, pretty cool, but this is all running on Plasma on the blockchain. So it's great to see this finally coming together because OmiseGo have certainly been one that have disappointed and fallen behind their roadmap. Now, this week we began voting for whether or not to implement ASIC resistance. So ASIC miners are those miners that are far more powerful than the average GPU or home computer, and the community are having a chance on whether or not they want to implement this program proof of work to prevent ASICs from dominating mining on the Ethereum network. And so far, we're seeing the majority of people saying they do want this implemented. We want protection from ASIC miners because of, again, the difficulty bomb, the pushback in the date for move to proof of stake and that sort of thing. So at the moment, this isn't set in stone, but it looks like the community want this implemented to the change of program proof of work. On to the Bitcoin news. So the saga continues as it says here, the SEC to review another ETF application. And this one's slightly different again. One of the things they're proposing is that the ETF be backed by US treasuries and cash and things as well, rather than just these futures or pegged sort of options. So this is another different proposal that we will find out in the next 45 days, whether this is accepted, rejected, or again, pushed back. They can buy time for another 240 days. This is the sort of news that I really like to see though. Argentina settling trade and export deals with Paraguay using Bitcoin. So this was, again, it's a small amount and you can say, oh, that doesn't even matter, it's too tiny, but it's these world firsts that can only grow. When countries, their currency has become such trash that they are now doing deals with other countries in Bitcoin. Guys, this is a big milestone. This is such a great step in the right direction. Next time it might be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, then another country, and all of a sudden we're bypassing the SWIFT system and the USD as the world reserve currency. I think this is great news that not enough people were talking about this week. Now, before we get into the charts, I did do a deep dive into the psychology behind engulfing candles and how to trade them for members this week. We're doing a range of educational structured units in our Facebook group if you do want to join. And that's because we had a great example here. And whether or not you want to get the more risky entry or the safer entry here, this was a huge trade, 10% without any margin. And from last week, we're still just consolidating in these bull flags. So that's the 4-hour chart. Let's go to the daily chart here. And as I tweeted out before, it's decision time. So I think we're going to see in the next 24 hours either a sell-off and we're going to break down out of this here and have the final capitulation before a push up, or the push up. And I hate to say, sorry guys, you can't see that there, can you? I'll just move that along a bit. We're either going to get that break up and break bullish, because at the moment this is looking like pretty healthy consolidation, as we can see by the volume here. We're stuck right between the 12 and 26 period moving average and that 50-day moving average. As we go through the other coins here, similar cycles stuck right in there, obeying these previous horizontals, and we know that Litecoin is the strongest of the lot there, with its 200-day moving average acting as overhead resistance, whereas Bitcoin, Ethereum, a lot of others are just sort of bouncing under their 50-day moving average. So Litecoin's been the leader. It's interesting to watch this play out. I think in the next 24 hours, maybe by the time you guys watch this, we are going to have a decisive move. But to be honest, it's pretty bullish for the time being. A lot of these healthy corrections and pullbacks after the big volume and move higher we saw. So guys, for more information, head to nuggetsnews.com.au to join our crypto community and start furthering your crypto knowledge. But keep an eye out for that documentary. I hope you guys really enjoy that. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.